after this long in the organizations, and since the manifesto, people might be saying, these aren't new anymore. How can these possibly still be new to you? What rock have you been living under? But we know they're still seemingly brand new to people. And how do we introduce it to them in a way where it helps them adopt them faster, get the joy and effectiveness that we've gotten out of using these methods, and scale that out to our organizations who are hungry for digital transformation, hungry for that acceleration in the market, but can't seem to get the old methods. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Feel free as I'm going, if there's something that just makes no sense and your brain has stopped, stop me so I can get you back on track, because I don't want to lose anybody. But otherwise, I'm going to try and get done early so that we have plenty of time for questions. So feel free to hold your questions too, but if you're just stuck and stopped, stop me. Does that sound good? Fair agreement? Okay. So I believe we learn how to change by mimicking those around us. Right? Few of us have gone to classes around how to make change in organizations. And typically if we have, we go back and continue to mimic those around us. Right? And usually for worse. And I can speak from experience because the first time I was given the opportunity to lead a change, all I did was what I'd seen everybody else do. And what does that typically look like? It typically looks like somebody who takes the authority that's given to them and then wields it over people. Would you agree? Right? The first thing that I did was use the most powerful tool in any organization, Outlook, right? To compel everybody to obey my commands of joining me in a specific conference room at a specific time to hear how genius my plan was and how they should do exactly what my spreadsheet said they should do at the timing I said they should do it. Has anybody attended one of my meetings? Yeah. Or with my friends, right, who have mimicked that same behavior. But that's all I knew. And it didn't work. Because the first time I had that meeting, they came because they were curious. I'll admit I was a bit younger at the time, and they were probably thinking, who is this young girl and what does she think she's doing? The second time they came to tell me all the reasons why I was wrong. The third time they didn't come to my meeting, and then I went to the boss and told on them. Anybody ever done that one? How well does that go for you on either end? Right? I'll claim that it was immature naivete. But as an engineer, I couldn't handle the fact that my methods wouldn't work. I had to go and figure out what's going wrong. I had to troubleshoot it. And over the course of several years, what I learned is there was a different way to create change, and I needed to create language around that so that I could help others join me in a new way of driving change in our organizations. And that's what I'm going to share with you tonight. So there are decades of hard lessons compiled down into beautifully illustrated slides. I didn't draw these, trust me. Those of you who saw my old illustrations, no, I did not draw these illustrations. I have a fantastic illustrator. But we're going to use these illustrations to tell a story about a different way of creating change. And I'm excited to have you on that journey with me tonight. And you can follow this as well if your appetite's whetted for more information in my book, Everyone is a Change Agent. I brought a few copies tonight, but feel free to grab them digital, online, however you like. Turns out Powell claims they have 20 in a remote warehouse. So it is one of the goals of mine one day to see my book on the shelf in Powell. So you guys are the only way that'll happen, is you have to go in and say, where is that book? Because then they'll think, oh, there's some, trend going on, and they'll stock it. Then when you see it there, tell me, because then I'll just go down and stand next to it, okay? I want to send that to my mom. So you can all help me do that. But in the book, I wrote it intentionally so you can scale it out to anybody, and it includes 7 change agent essentials, much like the 10 essentials for hiking, right? Don't leave home without these things. And I tried to include tactics as well, because I'm an engineer, so if I don't give you something practical you can implement, I feel like I've shortchanged you. And it's in one simple guide, so you should be able to scale it to anybody. They don't have to be an Agile practitioner to understand it. So you've all seen this before, right? The world changed when folks decided to stand up and do something different. And we can then follow on from that and say, yes, that's the sort of future I want, and choose to adopt it. This started the movement for why we're here. But as we've worked from years and years and years since that time, how have we tried to instantiate this change too often? Has your Agile adoption looked at like this? Now that is supposed to be me, because that was me, right? Compelling others to change. Because we believe such a good thing to get to the top of that mountain, to be Agile, to get those outcomes, that if I can just make them get there, they'll love it. Anybody ever said that to themselves or to their team? Just give in, you'll love it. Right? Did they ever go, oh, you're so right? No. Eventually you're just like, let me go find new people to convince, right? So what can we call this? We need a name for this. What is this thing that goes on in organization after organization that we see repeated everywhere that we just mimic? I call it driving people, where we're using coercion or threats or rewards to compel others to change. We think if it's such a good change, if I can just orchestrate the system right, I can get them there. If I can keep that senior leader in that position long enough with enough, what do we call it? We call it, top level support, executive support. If I can just get the right whip, right? And then they don't get a new job and leave me, right? Anybody been halfway through trying to hit a team and somebody leaves the job, right? Too often. And you're left there and somebody turns around and says, oh yeah, I'm not coming to that meeting anymore, Bob's gone. Anybody ever had that, right? Total adoption rate tanks the second somebody gets a new job. Proof you were driving people. They weren't there because they chose to be, they were there because they had to be. This is the predominant method of creating change in organizations today. I'd argue it's the predominant method that we're still using to do something as important as trying to implement Agile, and it's what's holding us back. Now that would, if I said, thank you, good night, this would be the worst thing you'd ever come to, right? This isn't helpful, I know this. Please don't leave me here. There's got to be something better. So what is that something better? It's hidden in the manifesto. Just those few words. By doing it and helping others do it. It doesn't say by telling them to do it and yelling at them when they don't. So how do we enact this in organizations? What you find in successful adoptions is that it's not about somebody being told to be Agile. It's about those people who say, I don't care what you tell me, I'm going to be Agile. Anybody ever been the rogue change agent in the room, right? My secret Kanban board under my desk so you don't know it, right? Yeah. That's when you have momentum and energy in an adoption. But how do we help people get there? We help people get there by doing what I call, we'll get there. We do it when we decide to go first, right? To stand in front of them first and say, I learned this new method, I'm going to try it. Here's how, watch me apply it to my work. You just don't worry about it. This is even better. You tell them, just don't look over here. I'm going to do something different. Then they'll go, well, what are you doing? Just never mind. It's none of your business. I'm going to go do this. Then they get curious, right? Anybody ever tried the reverse psychology with them, right? Just ignore me. Nothing to see here. And then you go home early because you're done. Wait, what the heck's going on? No, nothing. Never mind. Go away. Right? Or you can do it the other way, right? Which is, I'm going to choose to do this. Here's why I'm doing it. Here's why I'm passionate about it. Feel free to join me. I read this great book. You can read this too. I learned this new method. Do you want me to pair with you to show you? Right? I found this great coach. Do you want me to introduce you? You do it, and you help others do it. Coming to events like this, forming events like this is one of the ways you scale successful change. Because somebody said it matters enough for me to create this opportunity, and I'm going to clear the obstacles for others to join me. How many of you are here tonight because somebody invited you? Right? Great job to you for accepting the invitation, and great job to those of you who invited them, because you're already driving change. You chose the event for yourself, you cleared the obstacles for others to join you, you have created forward momentum in their Agile journey. Why do we get that in these sorts of situations and miss that at work? We don't invite people to meetings with all the people who love it and are excited. We tell them they have to be there, right? We lose all of this capacity oftentimes for enabling others to choose their journey the second we step into our jobs. But we can do something better, and I call that driving change. And which one you choose matters, I'd argue, most of all. Because no matter what method you're trying to implement, no matter if you're trying to do Agile or Lean or theory of constraints or any change in any function, with anything, at home, with your family, in the community, at work, if you drive people, you are making it harder on yourself and harder on them. And when you choose to drive change, you might not succeed right away, but you have a higher chance to succeed. And every day you're moving forward and enabling others to move forward with you. Every day. So the first key, the first change agent essential, is to drive change, not people. And if you left tonight and did one different thing, if you could adopt this, you will see acceleration on your change journey. Now, a tactic to do that might be something as simple as going back and canceling your mandatory meeting that you're struggling with, and resending the meeting notice out and putting everybody intentionally in as optional. He doesn't believe me. It works. Because here's a fascinating thing. You send it out as optional. You say, look, you know, it was mandatory before, but you know, I really want you to be there because you're passionate about it. I'm passionate about it. I'm going to be in that room, or I'm going to be on that bridge at this time, this day. Feel free to join me. And you're thinking, I'm going to be all alone. Anybody thinking that if you tried this? Right? Yeah. You might be. Or you might have 2 or 3 people there who are like, okay, now can we finally get something done? Because those 3 people that you know hate it, that consistently take up the whole meeting complaining, are gone. So let's go get something done. Would that make anybody's week better? Right? So simple things you can do to help move your organization forward. And the key is that first you choose to act, do something, then ask others to be with you. Too oftentimes this is in organizations. We start with the order. What should you do? Versus what did I do and why do I want you to join me? So let's contrast, right? Something simple as you read an article that you thought was really interesting. I've had managers who would send out, coaches who would send out this article and say, go read this article, it's important for you. Who's sent that email to people before, right? If you look at your feed, I know you're raising your hand secretly, right? You have, we all have. I am a past, sinner in this way. But instead of that, you go, I read this article. Here's why it touched me. And here's what I've already done to try and implement what it said. But I want to know, what do you think about it? How many people would read that email and read that article, right? You can get a massive shift in engagement just by the way you structure something to act, then ask. And you will get these positive results from it. Because driving change builds trust. It has a faster return on investment because you're making progress even if everyone else is trying to catch up to you. It's faster to implement, and you're putting the force upon the change. So anybody here who is frustrated with backsliding of an implementation, once you say you go on vacation for a week, anybody gone on vacation for a week, came back, it was like you'd never worked in the organization, right? If you're frustrated with that, try driving change. Because then you put in place systems and structures that you love, that other people love because they see the outcomes you're getting. They're in the forums because they want to be. Those are the folks who, when you go on vacation, say, hey, can I run that forum for you so we don't have to miss a week? Wouldn't that be nice? Right? Where they make progress without you. That's the ideal, right? When we're in Agile leadership, our goal is not to be there forever. We want to go solve new problems. So we need to make them capable to do it on their own. They won't get there if you drive people. They will if you drive change. And we can all adopt a simple change agent motto, which is, I will do what I can with what I have where I am. So if you're a developer, I don't expect you to go and install scaled Agile in your organization single-handedly, right, by setting a good example. But what can you do? Right? You can improve your method. You can implement something on your specific work. You can show how excited you are about it and what value it delivered. And you can talk about it with your friends and the folks that you work with. You can partner with the Agile coach and show him driving change and say, hey, do you mind maybe adopting more of this habit of actual coaching versus bossing? Because I already got a boss. I don't need a second Agile boss. Anybody ever been called the Agile boss? Not fun, right? Oh no, that guy, huh? You're the Agile boss? You got this guy. Okay. You can tattle on your fellow attendees. It's okay. I won't heckle too much. I promise. It's not a comedy show, right? All right. But you can adopt this change agent motto and do what you can with what you have where you are. If more people would do that, we would get more results versus everybody going, I can't, I'm not. I've met people who say, well, you know, I'm only, you know, a middle manager. I've had people say, I'm only a senior executive. I've talked to folks in the past, I'm only a senator. Like, only a senator, you know. If you want to be only you are, right? But who are you not to be? So adopting the change agent's motto and helping others do that is powerful. But it's not enough, right? Because it has to be safe to go be different. And we know, especially those who've been on the leading edge of these methods, that being different is tough. So how do we help others, especially this far into this journey, be different with us? You don't boil the ocean, as they say. You carve off your little island, and you protect your islanders from the waves. And I call this a change buffer, right? In project management, we buffer the things we care about. So why not buffer the change? And what are those change buffers we can implement? Well, there's 4 types of buffers I want to talk about, and then I'll tell a story about my son. So the first change buffer is a personal buffer. This one is who you go talk to, vent to, whine to, complain to, cry to when you've had a rough day. Because we know as change agents, there are rough days. Even when we are driving change, there are rough days. This is your personal buffer. Right? Because you don't want to vent to the team. You don't want to vent to the boss. A lot of times you just need to bleed that steam off someplace safe. So going and finding who is that personal buffer before you need it is key. You never want to need that person before you have that person in place. Now, other change agents over the course of time have taken on the who cares what anyone else thinks method. Maybe some of you look up to some of those folks. It's fine. I've never been able to do that. I care too much about what other people think, so I just have a friend who goes, shut up and don't care what they think. And I go, okay, thanks, Rhea. That's cool. I'll keep doing it, right? But you can pick either, but you need that personal buffer. Now, you can also have a leadership buffer. This is someone who's in a position of authority who can say, when people say, who told you to do that? Tell them I did. Anybody ever been given that authority in an organization to go make change happen, right? And tattle on the boss, right? It's great. Because chances are good most times that person never actually goes to your boss and goes, really, you let him out? Why did you let him go do that? They just go, oh, fine. And they go away, right? It's like, you know, get away. It's awesome. But you can do that for other people. You don't have to be in an actual position of authority to offer that to people. I tell people in organizations all the time, and you can do this now. You go in, you go try and make this change happen. Somebody goes, who told you to do that? You can go, crazy lady at Agile PDX. And have them call me. My email's in there, they can reach out to me. Why did you tell them to be happy at work? I don't know, I'm so sorry. Right? Feel free, use me. I can be that leadership buffer. Over the years with my son Theodore here, who's in these pictures, he's bigger now. He's 10, he's starting to smell. So I like to look at these pictures because he was adorable and sweet. He's still adorable and sweet, but he also smells. So, anybody have a 10-year-old boy? Right? This is the way it goes. It's like, no, you were sweet like a minute ago. Now you smell. But Ted has spina bifida, which means his spine was open when he was born. He's got leg challenges, other system challenges. And Ted's actually the reason why I wrote my book, because Ted went into the hospital a few years ago for 2 weeks. He's fine. But while he was there and insisted on watching the Disney Channel for 16 hours a day, I said, I'm going to go insane, so instead I wrote a book. 10 North at Dornbecker is the home of where my book was written, first draft. Some people, deal with stress differently. I write books, I guess. Other people in this room might agree with that concept for what they do with their time. But the power that TED has taught me over the years is it's less about what you can do individually and more about what do the people around you think you can do, and how they protect you from the ways where the systems and the looks and the questions from people would try to make you less than who you could be. And that's the power that each of us has in this leadership buffer to lead by making space for people to be different and space for people to change. A powerful buffer you can put in today through friendships, through organizational power, through the willingness to just say, send them to me, because most people will never take the conflict, so you'll actually get to go do what you want. So you can share, like you tell people I told you, I'll tell people you told me, and we'll see if anybody catches us. It's a great gambit, especially in large organizations, because no one will ever find you and ask. Make it somebody in a different group, right? They'll go, I think I know who that is, but I haven't met them, and they won't want to send them an email, right? It seems too mean or something. So you can win for years on that one. Just try it. Right? I used to work in large organizations. You got to come up with some systems here. There's also the policy buffer, which is how can I change the policies which are out there which allow this to be okay? So Jean referred to one. There was one I was working at Intel, and there was a little known policy about if you wanted to bring your newborn with you on travel, could you actually advocate for your boss to decide if you could bring a caregiver with? So the nanny in this case was either like my friend or my dad or my mother-in-law or something like that, right? But we found the policy and we created the policy buffer, which said we're going to use that policy to say this is okay. Now, some of you know the person that I cahooted with on that one because it's Ray Arel, right? So anybody think, oh, that's so Ray, right? To try and work the system on that one and cool stuff. So, and then celebration buffer. What I find a lot of times in organizations is that folks don't celebrate anything, right? Too often. You'll go, well, we're going to wait until we do that big release. We're going to wait, we're going to wait, we're going to wait, we're going to wait. Has anybody just weighted themselves into realizing that there's never a party coming, right? Yeah. So instead, what you can do to drive momentum is to celebrate wins every week. What are your wins? You can do it daily if you want. What were your wins? And letting people share that more freely allows you to see what do they value. You'll find out, well, one of my wins is last night my 6-year-old learned to ride a bike, and oh, by the way, I committed that code. Oh, cool, right? I learned something new about you, and I got the win of the accomplishment of work. And it feeds on itself. Then people want to bring you their wins. They want to celebrate the progress. Because too often in our organizations, it's hard to tell if we're making progress. If you're in a manufacturing organization and you can see the metal spinning and you can see the building going up, and sometimes you get more of a physical instantiation of I'm making change happen. But with an Agile adoption, do you really get a feeling that sometimes it's like a secret hamster wheel and you don't know you're a hamster, right? Same stuff, different day, new problem. Wait, no, right? So how do you get a feeling of momentum and enthusiasm and progress? You celebrate your wins and then record them and look back at them. And it will create space where people say, this is different. This is special. And you don't need to ask anybody else to do that. You can build that into your day with your teams tomorrow. So the second change agent essential is create and maintain change buffers. Key. But now what the next piece is, so we're driving change and we've got change buffers, but how often do we just tell people they should be Agile or do Agile? Has anybody ever had a fight of what does Agile mean? Right? That's like a joke in here, right? Like, try to define it. I dare you. So the reality is that we can define it a lot of different ways depending on what we're trying to achieve, right? We use the word to mean everything and nothing all at the same time. So when you tell people to be Agile, a lot of times does it feel like you're sitting at this intersection? So I did that thing. No, not that. Well, I tried to do that thing. No, not that either. Wait, what? Well, hurry up. What am I supposed to do? So what can we do instead? We need to move from issuing orders to create flow. And the way we can do that is if we're driving change, right? What are your obstacles to moving forward? Show me what you're seeing. I'm seeing 3 green lights, 2 red lights. Okay, my job is to go remove the red lights. Show me what's slowing you down. If it's that stacked ranking is slowing me down and you continue to measure me as an individual and you want me to contribute to the team, that's a counter signal, right? And we can create clarity and flow if we can focus on being agile instead of doing agile, giving the orders of agile is blah, 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 and only these things. Conform, conform, conform. Instead of saying, how can you show me that agility? How can you show me that learning? How can you do it and help others do it and get value out of it quickly and effectively so you get addicted in the positive sense to the joy of getting something done? How many people are addicted to getting something done? How many people don't get to do that every day, right? We can do better. So one of the ways you can do this, and a lot of people have different ways to set goals or whatever else, in my distilled sense, if you can't even get to something as simple as picking one and fitting it into this format, you don't know where you're going or what you're trying to do. So if a word means too many things, it means nothing. So pick a thing it means for now and say, I'm going to go to this mountain and get this done. So you'd say, by as soon as possible, people here will experience what? We did a change up in my old hometown of Bremerton, Washington, where I worked for the Navy, where we said, by as soon as possible, children with special needs will experience a beyond accessible playground at Evergreen Rotary Park. And over the course of 3.5 years, we raised $550,000 and opened a 9,000 square foot playground that improved playground usage 14 times and gave the children in the county with special needs the first place to play that was designed for them. And we did it because we didn't say, oh, thank you. And then we opened it, and then a few months later, I moved to Oregon to work for Intel, so my son's still mad at me, but that's okay. In my defense, when we opened the playground, I couldn't find him. I found him near the trees, hitting a tree with a stick, saying he was playing Minecraft. So then he was 7. So you go through like adorable, what the heck, smelly. You know, I'm getting there. But you focus on outcomes, not orders, and you can do amazing things. So rather than going into the city and saying, you need to build a playground for these children, they have no place to play, harump, 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 and I'm going to raise a stink until you do, we instead said, by as soon as possible, children will receive this playground, and we're going to drive change to make that happen. And you can do that because you set a goal and you laser-like focus on it, and then the next mountain will get easier and the next mountain will get easier. Don't try and make accessible play the way the world works. Start with something. Don't try to make agile everything. Start with something. Can we just agree we're a team? Has anybody ever tried to start with that one? How many weeks did that take? Right? Yeah, right? Right? So it depends on when you start. You're like, okay, that one's too tough. Can we admit we work at the same company? Right? No, yeah, who knows? This is what's fun about this profession, right? Is every story is different. And every story is like, I never knew you could ruin it that way. Wow. It's an engineer thing, right? 1,000 ways to not do it to find the one. That's cool. Okay. Neat. All right. So change agent essential 3 is set a concrete goal. If you can't get one down, you probably aren't agreeing on where you're going, and everybody's trying to do something different. So you can't be surprised when you say, let's go on a hike, and you all show up different places. And then fight about who's right. Anybody had that one? I went on the hike, and now I'm in the wrong place. No, you're in the wrong place. No, you're in the wrong place. Oh my gosh, right? We can do better. And the next thing you can do is map, what I call map the terrain, which is too often with organizational changes, with agile adoptions, is we don't really admit that people sort of already live on the land that we're trying to conquer, right? There's probably already process improvement people or QC people or managers, right? There's whole stories about what's the manager's role in Agile and everything else. They are a settler, right? And when you find them, they go, get off my lawn. Anybody ever had that one happen, right? And you go, I'm here from the corporate Agile thing, and I'm here to take away all of this and give you this. And they go, I didn't order this, right? So what can we do to help our changes be more successful? You need to choose to partner to clear obstacles. which is when you walk up to somebody and go, hi, I want to partner with you, and they say, get off my lawn, you got to figure out, well, what do I do next to try and win this partnership? Not who do I go tell to make them, right? Because most people go, wow, they're not supporting. Who's their boss? Anybody ever tried that tactic before? I've done it before. Doesn't end well, right? He's got the shotgun, I've got the 50 cal, and together we're going to live unhappily forever after, right? You don't want to start this. So instead it's, oh, so sorry to disturb you. Can you tell me more about what you were expecting I would be bringing? I didn't invite you. Okay, well, noted. We're going to go over here and do some stuff. Would you like to join us? No, thank you. Okay. Just go over there, raise a ruckus, start high-fiving, get some wins. They'll go, well, what the heck is that? Right, and get curious. And it actually is faster than yelling at them and trying to wait them out and seeing if, you can force faster and trust me, it's a lot faster to win them or to just move across and succeed and have them eventually come and join the party. And you also need to map where are you at now and where do you want to be? Because in organizations that are founded on driving people, when you try to do something good, people will assume two things. The first they will assume is that you mean to take over the world. Right? Anybody ever had the person come up to them and say, well, since your goal is world domination, right? You're trying to implement Scrum with one team and people are suspicious and circling around like, what's the conspiracy here? And what's your objective? And what's your angle? Am I the only one who's gotten these questions? No, okay, a few of you. Right. So the problem is in most organizations, if someone succeeds, some senior leader sees it and makes that the order, right? And you can think of it a bit like a size small t-shirt, right? It fits somebody really well and they come in and go, boss, I love this, it's the best, it helps me get this business value. And they go, great, let's buy 1,000. I know some of you are like, I don't want to wear that t-shirt. Doesn't look good on me, doesn't fit my needs, can't win business in it. But how many times are the processes we've tried to scale across people a bit like that size small t-shirt, right? Yeah. So instead what you do is you say, look, my goal is to just do this with this team. Step one, my team. Step two, I have no step two. I want to try it with the team. Now, if it succeeds and you want to follow it, I'm happy to share with you my best practices so you can follow it too. If you want my help and you want to ask, I'm happy to help you. But I'm not going to try and make the boss make you. I'm actually going to try and prevent the boss from making you because I know that won't help you. So step one, my team. Step two, help others who ask. You have to say the step two part or they will think your goal is world domination. Or they make the other bad mistake, which is they assume eventually you're going to come and do it for them too. Anybody ever had that problem? Where people want to load up your implementation with all the improvements they want because they figure yours is eventually going to get to them and so they want all this stuff in there? So either way, you're slowed down because of their misunderstanding of your objectives. So if you can set these now and later boundaries, you can help people either ignore you for longer, which sometimes in organizations is what you need to get going and get wins, or engage with you faster. So with the playground, yep, question?
Of course.
Okay.
Are you taking them in the middle?
I can take them now.
Yes. So as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about those of us who are deployed out of Agile transformation offices or hired to be Agile coaches or hired to be change agents. Mm-hmm. Do you think when you come in with that kind of mantle, it's easier or harder to do all of this?
It depends. I think if you come in with that mantle and you try and drive people, it's hopeless from the beginning because you're temporary. And there's a great line in government. It's called the weebies. We be here before you, we be here after you. And so they know they have greater value than you do. And you're usually the fickle whim of whoever's in charge at that point is trying to make some sort of point. So it usually doesn't work at all if you're from external and try and drive people. If you're external and you try and drive change, a lot of times you can change people. You can help them get to the place they were always desiring to be, and then they won't backslide. So that's much more powerful. In terms of centralized groups, there's several different ways where those atrophy or die. And so one of the ways is that they get obsessed with their own policies. right? So they become an engine unto themselves of how they do things. I've seen more lean offices that were not lean, right? With, well, you have to do these 7 things. It's like, isn't your 7 things waste? Well, you have to do all these processes to find waste, even if you don't have that waste, right? How does that work? Or they lag behind the leading edge implementers. Usually centralized groups are ahead of the average of the population, but not ahead of the lead. And so they lag behind the lead and they hold the lead back, which creates friction in them adapting because they're trying to standardize usually, right? So you've got a great Agile implementation, but then you're going to go do scaled, and so then those people have to wait and they can't go advanced, they can't go understand and go to really bigger methods because they're having to conform, and then they get frustrated and then they burn out, and then people argue that yours isn't effective because you killed them first, and they're advocating to the boss to get rid of you, and then you're gone. Right? And these are the real challenges. So there's actually a blog post I put out on the MSS Business Transformation Institute about the way centralized change groups die. Because there's pretty common pathologies that happen. And usually they're based on that driving people's sense of entitlement to set something, entitlement to be something, entitlement to do something which restricts other people's action, and then you atrophy. Does that help? Cool. So change agent essential 4 is map the terrain. If you don't have that terrain mapped, the danger is that you are missing something essential to what's going on around you. It's not just about you, it's also how is the environment around you understanding you. And for a while they'll go, you're just weird. Why are you happy and asking, would you like to join me? Who does that? And then you just have to be okay with doing that until it becomes, well, why wouldn't you ask people? And it becomes the new normal. And throughout all of this, the choice you have is to choose to overcome fear. I love this illustration because I meet so many people who are battling chipmunks and arguing they're bears. Oh no, it's so scary, it's so horrible. Really? Let's look at it again. Right, let's frame it again. Let's think about it. People who are going, I can't cancel a meeting notice. There's a button called cancel. It works, right? We have to put our fears into context and then partner with each other to help overcome them. It's okay to be afraid of what might happen, but if you stay stuck, you deny yourself and your organization that capacity to improve. We say this a lot, but we struggle to do it. So change can be chosen and agility is possible, but you can't force it upon someone. You have to choose to be agile and adaptive yourself and model it so that others will be agile and adaptive too. How many of you have met a change agent who is so rigid about the way you create change? Right? Oh my gosh. It's like, oh, you're so cute. Your hypocrisy. It's adorable. Right? No, there's a better way. But only if we will try.
April, question?
Yeah.
What's the personal cost when you're that person, when you're that change agent, leading people rather than driving people?
The personal cost usually is funny looks and questions on your motives and suspicion of what exactly is going on, right? People create a story in their heads, and that's where the buffers comes in, which is if you don't have a person where when somebody's just unreasonably rude to you one day that you can go to and go, I didn't deserve that, right? No, you didn't deserve that. That can strengthen you. Or a boss who goes, yeah, you know, that's just April, leave her alone. You need all of those in organizations. And in each organization, you'll know best. But that's the cost, is the day-to-day struggle of it, which isn't much different than trying to be a change agent while driving people, because people hate you for that and everything else too. So really, there's not much difference in it. Being a change agent is the risk. It's actually better, I think.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask something. I was writing down essentials, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 7.
Yeah, because I only have an hour.
Fair enough. Then I'll just get
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, secret marketing. No, seriously, I had an hour, and she's like, you know, you got to have time for questions, so I had to give you yeah, sorry.
How could you do that?
I know, right? I have 15 copies, right? First 15 to the door, right? Okay. So you have to try, And the tactic you have to use, I would recommend you use, is choose to model it and teach it. We don't learn things like this that are experiential by reading all the books about it, right? If you go read my book and then you don't go do it, I've failed you. Because my goal is not for you to read the book. My goal is for you to do something powerful. And if the book can help you do that, then God bless you and go do it. The world needs more positive change. The world needs the agility. The world needs the digital solutions we can provide if we can be agile. And they're not getting them because we can't get past this old way of creating change. You see the powerful ways where the industries we work in are changing people's lives. And you think how much faster that could go if all of us that are passionate about it could apply that passion to the work, not to fighting each other. Ugh. Right? I'm an engineer. I hate friction. If it's not there for a purpose, it is in my way. And we can do better if we can model taking that friction out of the system first with ourselves and help others do it too. And it will be a challenge because the first time you try and help a change agent, the first thing they want to go do is go beat somebody, right? They want to go hit whoever just hit them, right? Anybody ever taken a junior person and given them an assignment and they turn into a tyrant overnight, right? We can do better. I don't do that to you. You're not going to go do that to other people. Let's go do something better. So choose change today. I encourage you to do that. And stay in touch. I am local. I'm proud to be a part of this community. I'm grateful for the friends I've made, the lifelong connections, the people who challenged my thinking and helped me learn and grow. And I'm honored to be here to give back to you tonight. I'm happy to take questions.
I can generate questions.
All right.
So these are very charming illustrations, and this is very nice, perky little talk, and this is a brutal business that we often find ourselves in. So tell us a story about how this worked in a large organization where you were actually facing the people-driving system.
Yeah, great. So happy to. I'll leave it vague enough where no one comes to get me afterwards for violating some NDA, right? The big things that I've found in large organizations is that you have to be okay with people being suspicious, and you can't let their suspicion drive you off message. So when I've tried to do this, I'll admit a lot of times people just think it's like a girl thing, like, oh, she wants to be nice. It's like, no, I'm driven for outcomes. I just know this gets me a better outcome, right? I'm an engineer. If I see a better way of doing it, I'm going to implement the better way of doing it. But people get suspicious about it. And so the big trick is where you actually are leveraging your confidence in yourself and your network of people that you put around you before you go big with it to try and start it small. So taking actions in your own work to change that before you want to take on a program, right? Do what you can with what you have where you are. You don't want to start this with just jumping to the top. You want to say, can I get my team right? Can I get my org right? Can I get my part of the organization right? And so what I did in running one was I ran a program, and we took 250 people who had volunteered, and we scaled them out into volunteer self-forming teams. So before I knew about the Agile Manifesto at all, just by doing it and helping others do it to create positive change. And we changed the way that organization changed because we gave people a different version to mimic. But I carved an idea into a team, into a program, into something that was amplified across the organization that made it okay to be different. And that's the key opportunity I think we have. Is first, it has to be okay to be different before your organization will all be different, right? Agile sometimes means different to people. Like, I know I don't want it to be like this, so I want it to be different. We'll call different Agile, right? But what it ends up being is different titles and the same old behaviors. And that's not the change we want. So the first thing you do is scale your behaviors. Yep, here and then there.
So I don't know if you've come across this situation, but a lot of times what happens is that there's change being implemented, and as a result of that change, there could be some people might perceive that as an existential threat.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you deal in that situation?
Yeah, well, sometimes changes are existential threats. As somebody who's been laid off once officially and another time with the, if you don't find someplace else, then you're going to go. That is a reality, and we don't do people a service if we pretend it isn't. But at the same time, what I found is the opportunity is to understand what are those motivators, right? What are they worried about? What I struggle with is in most organizations, you get that middle layer of leadership that is the struggle, right? Folks talk about, I have executive support and I have team level support, but I struggle with the middle. Anybody have that problem? Right. One of the problems in that space is that the risk curve is different, right? If you've spent 15 years with a company or you've got a life in a certain town, your kids are in high school, you've got a mortgage, you're looking forward to retirement someday, maybe paying for college, any change is going to be seen as an existential threat, right? So the challenge is how do you make it safe to be different in a way which doesn't invoke that first fear? And what I like to do is just do driving change, which is go in and say, hey, I really want to partner with you. What does that look like for you? If we were to move you over there, what concerns you, right? What are the threats? If somebody can surface the fact that I'm really worried my job's on the line, how can I either validate that and say, wow, you were so right, so how do we adjust this or admit that? The shorter time duration between worry and reality can help people understand that better versus it lingering as a potential that's not really there or whatever else, right? Or the inversion curve, which is if you don't change, you're actually more likely to lose your job than if you do, right? I mean, it's different in each organization. I've had folks that shift to Agile and then all the Agile people are cut, right? There's no safe place in most organizations today, not even in government, which used to be like you could go there and no one would get rid of you until like they rolled your corpse out, right? And even there, it's not necessarily safe. I worked in government for a long time, and that was the reality, right? So, yeah, and you have to handle it individually. You don't go, all middle managers have the same existential threats and lump everybody together, and then you end up creating programs that are just driving people.
Thank you.
Here's another question over here.
Oh, yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So in a lot of, I feel like when you were speaking about being a change agent and modeling and teaching and communicating your passion and purpose and kind of bringing people together, as an engineer as well, I always found that like communication is a skill that to be learned. I was wondering if you have any suggestions on how to improve kind of that skill so that we can be better change agents?
Yeah, great. There's different things that I found over time that help. There's one of the key things is being willing to say something even if you don't know it's going to come out right? A lot of times folks want it to be correct, right? We want the correct answer, the correct statement before we share it. And the safest way I've found to help people through that is to say, okay, I'm your friend, practice on me, right? So if somebody wants to go into their team and say, I'm really passionate about Agile, I really think we should do Scrum or whatever, don't do your first attempt to get that story out to the team if you're nervous, right? So helping people with that personal buffer to say, come and practice that communication with me if you want to get better at telling your story. And how can I go, I'll play act as your teammate and go, well, why should I care? And if you go, and run, you got to work on that until you're ready to have that conflict or conversation, right? It might not be a conflict. A lot of times we build up the worry about the conversation before we have it, instead of just trying to have it. So those are a lot of times the ways I've used to get an initial change agent moving is you just have to do it and help others do it. So go talk to people. Well, I don't know how to do that. You'll get better if you talk to people. You can go read this book or that book or whatever, but if you read all the books and you don't talk to people, you're not going to get better. So it's who's safe to talk to practice and then scale out from there. So I'd never recommend the first time somebody wanted to advocate for something, go to your CEO necessarily and go, you know what I thought, maybe practice on your friend, right? Yep.
So the upside of this is that as a Agile professional coming
Yep.
into some place, is that management like read about it, they know it's awesome, so you come in and the teams kind of give you that pushback, so you're trying to start slowly with them, and then you get the manager saying, why aren't you being fast enough? You know, I'm going to get someone who's going to push these guys instead of you guys who try to be, you know, gentle and encouraging and all this. So how do you convince the organization that this takes time?
Yeah. So one of the key things that I start with a lot of senior leaders is, do they know the practices and could they do them if, you know, forced or if given the opportunity? A lot of times what you find is the senior leaders go, oh no, that's for them. And I'm going to say the same. So the senior leaders have to drive change too, which is if you don't, you know, say you're not in a development team, you're not going to be in a development team, you're a senior leader, you've never done Agile, that came after you were a developer, whatever, go and take a class in it, practice it, go sit with the team and try it and go, wow, this is hard. I bet if your senior leader went into that team and tried to do a sprint with them for 2 weeks, they would learn a lot and that team would always want to be Agile. Now maybe you only do it for a day, maybe you do it for 3 hours. You could probably do it for 20 minutes. And that team would talk about it their entire career. I worked at that company, and that VP came down, and he tried to program with me for 20 minutes. It was hilarious. He didn't understand crap, right? They will tell us, but they will be Agile forever, right? Because I care about it enough to come here and sit with you and try and understand it. They will never go back. That's driving change. No one's exempted from it. Yeah, back there. Oh. Sorry, someone else can pick who's next, because I'm bad at this, I will admit.
So thank you very much. Super smart and very intuitive. One question I had is Agile, you're talking about change, right? So Agile, though, seems to tend to be whatever it is that you want it to be. And so, you know, a lot of times it's this thing to the executive who went to this presentation, and it's another thing to the engineer, and it's another thing to that middle manager. Right. How do you deal with kind of navigating all of those different definitions? What's your...
Great question. The way I try and do it is, why are we doing this in the first place, right? The goal is value flow for the business, right? The goal is personal flow of my work so I see it pay off and a customer actually using it versus it just getting recycled into nothingness because we never ship, right? So you can align people on what's common between them all and then say it's multifaceted, right? But if we're all looking to the same place, we can use this to get alignment. Because it will be different for an executive than it is for a design team, right? For a development team. What the development team wants is very different from what the executive wants, and making them want the same thing is usually an effort that you'll never hold them in the same place. So try and getting all of them something they want that's aligned is better.
Is one of the ones that you skipped over, is that about metrics and measures?
Sort of, but it's really a focus on sustainment. Which is, if you're not trying to actually make this stick, what's the point? Some people use metrics and measures to keep it to stick. I make sort of face around it because a lot of times if you're driving change, you don't need a metric or measure because that's like a stick. You know, people will do it because they love it and all the numbers go up. You didn't need to go, if this number doesn't go up, you haven't succeeded. People just get excited about succeeding. I mean, how many people love it when you check something again and it works? You want to do it again. How shocking. Let's just let them do that. Wouldn't that be lovely? Yes, next one.
Sure.
I can go on and on.
So, sounds good. So, so when I was an engineer, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop. Thank you very, 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 very much for by doing it and helping other people do it. It's, the most important forgotten part of the manifesto. So when I was an engineer, it was easy to do that, right? I'm going to do test-driven development, and if you want to know why my code never breaks, you can come talk to me and I'll show you how I do test-driven development. No problem. As I've become more and more of an outsider and more focused on helping people adopt Agile, I've found it harder and harder to... I can do it in what I do, but I find it harder and harder to do it in a way that other people can see it. Do you have any suggestions or good success stories to help with that?
Yeah, I think I'll try and answer, and you can see if I got it, right? Because it was sort of nuanced there, and I'll see if I hit in the middle, right? Which is, the further away we get from whatever our core expertise is, the harder it is, I think, sometimes to feel technical enough to have that impact and to convey it in a way where people see it as equivalent to their technical expertise, right? It used to be, just check my code, you'll see how awesome it is, it's good, right? I'm just clearly more technical, right? More technical is the win, right? You gotta do it like this, no matter who you are, right? But the reality is a lot of the stuff that we're doing is also very technical in terms of you have to understand the mechanisms. And so helping people understand the mechanisms you're using to create the change, whether that's explaining it in the equivalence of code, if they're coders, explaining it in the equivalent of a mechanical or electrical system, if they're mechanical or electrical, is really powerful to get them to understand from where they're at, how to see the value you bring in their terms. So if I'm talking about diversity aspects in organizations and they say we have a pipeline problem, I say engineers don't think you have a pipeline problem if there's water all over the floor. You pump the water in and it's all over the floor, that's not the pipe's fault. Or usually that's not the water's fault, right? And most times in programs we try and fix the people in the system instead of fixing the system. I got that one a little backwards when I first said it, so sorry if I confused you. That was in my own head. But that's where we've got to show people these concepts in their own terms. So if you say, doing these experiments in fast to fail and checking is a lot like test-driven development for change, right? Yeah. We applied a lot of these techniques to a conference. A few folks in here ran with me, right? Let's go try that. We were pairing on the conference. We had co-chairs, and we ran it a lot like pairing. So when we'd go in and we'd be editing something for something, we were looking at it together. Instead of she looks at it and then shows it to me, and then we did it together. And it was fantastic because we were trying to apply all of this stuff to something very different, like running a conference. Right?
Thank you.
Yep.
I think we'll do one more.
Okay.
April, thank you for presenting. As a former nuclear engineer and submariner, how did you get Captain Marquet to do your work?
Yeah. So, one, we had invited him out to a conference called Accelerate that we had at Intel in April of 2016. So we invited him as a keynote speaker. That's where I met him personally. But I had several friends who had known him for years and other things, and so we had that shared experience. And honestly, there's just very few women who've worked on nuclear submarines, especially fast attacks. So there's probably 5 of them older than me, and the rest are maybe still in the shipyard. And now there's the women on the Tridents. But yeah, so it's just connection, and I asked, and he said yes. So you don't get what you don't ask for, right? So
Great inspiration.
Yeah, thanks.
So that concludes our talk, Renee. Thank you so much, April. This is wonderful.
Thanks for having me.